All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Woo! How's it going? We've heard from some incredible speakers this morning. We're so excited to be here to have this conversation on AI and product leadership. Because whether we're ready or not, AI is already shaping how we work, how we build, and how we reimagine the future, or maybe even what we decide to eat for dinner. My name is Wenah. I'm on the board of Women in Product. I'm an attorney, a filmmaker, have worked in emerging tech through tech companies and through the federal government. And today we are joined by leaders who set the trends for reimagining the future. And we'll dig into what that means for technology and the future of product. So we have Aparna Chennapragada, Chief Product Officer of Experiences and Devices at Microsoft, who is responsible for Google Lens. So if you ever saw a dress and you whipped out your Google app and you were trying to figure out where that dress was from, you need to thank Aparna when you see it. Okay? All right.
And if it doesn't work, send me the bug report.
We've got Choe, the global brand president for Vans, who oversees strategic direction of VF's and Vans' global business. Sun was responsible for bringing and introducing footwear to Lululemon. So, big ups there. And then we have Tiffany, the Senior Vice President of Product Platform and Enterprises for Atlassian, who spearheads the unification of the company's Agile and DevOps. And she has been at the forefront of disruptive technology and is responsible for the virtualization at VMware. Help me welcome our panelists. Now, to start, let's ground ourselves, right, in the big shifts that are underway and with AI. We know AI is changing workflows, leadership expectations, and how teams pretty much operate. So how do we think differently as product leaders? Aparna, you've led organizations and teams through multiple platform shifts such as mobile, search, and now artificial intelligence. What mindset shifts do product leaders need to thrive in this AI ecosystem?
Julie, actually, after Claire's talk, we're just going to turn this into vibe coding.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Change in plans. No, I'm kidding. But I've been through and led the internet shift, mobile and cloud, and now AI. And I think every time people say, oh, this time is different, but I have to say this time is different. And there are, I would say, three things that are happening here that's useful for us all to kind of grok. One is that the compression, that the tech shift that used to happen over decades is now happening over months. In fact, as we speak, I'm sure there's a new model dropped somewhere, right? So that, I think, is like a tremendous amount of change for organizations, even folks at the forefront of this. That's number one. Number two is, I think software, again, has always had this, the variable cost is zero. So effectively, you build once and, the margins actually work out. The whole premise of SaaS has been that with cloud and so on. But now with inference, meaning the intelligence that it requires to serve like a ChatGPT response or a Copilot or a Gemini is non-zero, which means actually what choices you make infrastructure-wise are all visible as business model. So that's, again, so you can't just kind of say, oh, yeah, we'll build it and, we'll make up in volume. The third thing, most relevant for this audience and for all of us is how we are making products changes. And I'll give one example, and we can talk more about this, which is in the last 5 product reviews that I've been in, we didn't start with the PRDs, we started with the prompt sets. Some of you might have heard me say this, as the prompt sets are the new PRDs, and the natural language interface, NLX, is the new UX. So for us, all product builders, that's the biggest change, that prompt sets and evals are really the new way of making products.
That's an insightful take on what we should be thinking about. And yeah, prompt sets are the new PRDs. And, this shows up differently in different industries as well, with a little different take. Vans is rooted in culture and community. How are you using AI across your organization, whether that includes core product development elements like design and inventory? And what are some of the biggest surprises that you've seen?
Yeah, I'd say our take on AI is probably a little bit different, just more in the design world. And so we use it in a couple of different spaces. First is really in the design process, where using generative AI, we can really iterate much quicker. The best tool, I think, that this creates for a lot of designers and creatives is sometimes it's a bit paralyzing to start from scratch and draw a pair of shoes or draw that perfect design on a blank piece of paper. So when you can prompt AI to say, hey, what would it look like if I married a pair of Authentics with a brogue loafer, and what could that look like? And it spits out an image for you. And from that, the designers can start building off of and iterating with the tools that are out there. So that's on the creative side, how we're really leveraging AI. It also allows our teams to go much faster in the design process and the creation process. The other thing it allows us to do is design digitally, and it takes a lot of the prototyping and sampling out of the equation where you have to go back and forth with the vendors. And then on the probably complete other end of it, we use it really around allocation. So you've probably all heard of the right product at the right place at the right time. So AI definitely allows us to understand the profiles of consumers that are shopping certain locations, certain type of stores, and then you can start mapping out your assortment against that. So those are two pretty different ways of how we're leveraging AI today.
Thank you, Sun. And hearing about the role of creativity and how your team is integrating AI into the product development process makes me think of the way that you're centering your consumer, your customer. And we know that when the customer shifts, everything that we do in the business tends to shift along with it. Tiffany, centering customers is core to building impactful products and something that's core and very important to you in the work that you do. Can you share a moment where consumer feedback dramatically reshaped your roadmap?
Sure, Julie. So Atlassian has a lot of different customers, but I think what's really interesting across our 300,000 customers is they use Atlassian's products to build their own products and services, right? And so thinking through the role of their feedback is really important as we're kind of building a tool set for them. And obviously with 300,000 customers, you have a ton of data, right? And so now with AI, you might think, okay, maybe you don't even need product managers anymore. You've got all this data, you've got all this feedback, the agents are just gonna tell us what to build. But I think at the end of the day, product managers still have a really important role in understanding what feedback you want to take from that, right? And so for Atlassian, and I've seen this in my experience at my prior companies, VMware as well, it's important to try to identify the thought leaders, because it's always a small set of customers that are pushing the envelope with your product. And oftentimes they're going to be the ones setting the trends. They're going to be the ones most aggressive about experimenting with AI. And they're the ones that are going to help you build kind of that next generation of products and services that will then help the rest of that customer base. And so, for example, obviously no one could have predicted what would happen with AI and the time when it would happen. But for Atlassian, about 6 years ago when I joined and I was talking to customers, there was a set of them that kept telling me, hey, we're reaching the limits of what we can get in terms of insights out of your product. We put this really important data into it, but we're not really able to derive insights from it. There's not enough context. And so that really motivated us to start investing in connecting the relationships between that data. So we started to build out a graph that connected who's working on what projects they're working on, what the goals are. Little did we know, all of that context layer then, when AI came along, put those two pieces together, now customers can get so much more from their data because they've got the context from that graph, and then now they have AI agents able to work with that graph. And so being able to find those early customers that can push that envelope, I think can really change the trajectory of the value you can deliver over time.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Tiffany. So we've talked a little bit about where AI is going. Now let's get into the tension that we can oftentimes experience, right? This need to build quickly, but then to also build responsibly as well, which can really get at odds at times. Aparna, with AI being integrated into productivity tools and enterprise systems, how do you balance pushing forward ambitious capabilities while thinking about usability, trust, and ethics?
This, I think what you just said, this balance, tension, is probably the central question, especially when you're thinking about going from these toy demos to reliable systems that people can use every day and different industries. So I'll give you actually an example from recent times in a product that we built. And it's something that many people use both with Microsoft products and other products, a recapping and a summary of a meeting. Before, you had people who would kind of just like take notes and so on. Now you have transcription plus reasoning model. That means that you can really get like a much more insightful commentary on what the meeting was about. But here's the dilemma on the trust side, which is the feedback we get from customers is it's amazing, and what's the governance of it? So to me, in enterprise at least, it's a two-for. Every product feature is a two-for. You have the actual utility of the product and the governance, and you can't separate these things out, right? And so in this case, we had to make sure the access to that was for people who were in that meeting or access to that meeting. It had the legal and compliance requirements. There's every feature that you think about, at least in the enterprise, you need to think about the shadow twin of like governance. And it's not easy, right? So it's the tagline or the mantra I give teams is, you gotta innovate at the speed of trust, right? And that just means, in some cases, getting ahead, tip of the spear, show the art of possible. But in many cases, it is about saying, imagine what happens if this is a system that every day customers are relying on. The picture often, I don't know, I'm dating myself, but there was an ad in YouTube a while ago with Van Damme, I think. Like, he's basically doing a split across two trailers. And that's my life. That's our life, right? You just have to innovate.
We're going to put the image up here.
Exactly. Yeah. No, you have to innovate at the speed of trust. And you lose balance on one of those, bad things are going to happen.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one. And you're right. We got to innovate at the speed of trust. I like that. And that perspective on balancing ambition and balancing trust, it raises a question. So when we think about treating artificial intelligence and machine learning models as a design partner, what are the outcomes there? Tiffany, responsible product development has been core to your work as well. What role do you think that AI should play as a design partner, and how are you in the business thinking of integrating it into your products and offerings?
Yeah, so definitely +1 to everything Aparna said. All of our customers are putting their hopes and dreams, their most important data into our system. So you have to start with trust, definitely as the baseline. But at Atlassian, one of our key philosophies is that we really want to bring the power of the entire team together. So I think when I think of AI as a teammate, you want that to be not in one function, right? You really want to unleash that potential across all the functions in the company. And really what we were talking about, even in the last session, as you said, now all of a sudden everyone can code, everyone can design. And so there's a lot of blending that happens. That's exciting, because that means now AI is design partner to everyone in the company. But how do we do that in a responsible way? I think we have to provide support as leaders. So at Atlassian, one of the things that we focused on is providing a centralized support team from IT that is available to every function in the company. And that's why we have right now, I think, something like 8,000 agents in our company, which shows it's not just the developers using it or the product managers or the designers. We have sales, we have HR, we have all of these different teams bringing AI in as a design teammate. And so I think that starts to really change the entire innovation and product development lifecycle in some exciting ways.
Actually, Tiffany, that's a great point. I want to +1 this observation that you just made, which is that in the past technology shifts, it was always the nerds in the basement that got there first. But I think it's really fascinating to see the adoption from what you think of as traditionally non-technical, right? Lots of leaning forward from HR, marketing, design, and a whole bunch of functions, which is amazing.
Absolutely. And of course, all of that runs up against deadlines and calendars, because at the end of the day, we're operating in businesses, right, that are putting products and offerings to market. So, Sun, emerging tech often collides with these product calendars and these lead times. How do you manage time to market when technology itself is still evolving?
I think for Vans and where we are today, what I like to look at is technology as an enabler. And so while there are definitely things that are emerging, there are also things that are kind of tried and true that's reliable. And I also think that there is perfection and imperfection. And so it really is just making sure that the teams know that we can try on things, even in beta form, without having to have everything protected or perfected. And so I'd say one of the things that I'm really looking at in terms of lead times and trying to be faster and closer to the consumer, because when you're talking about the make of footwear, it is quite a long process, but I do think that you can speed things up if you looked at categories of things that you're making. So rather than taking the longest lead time of what you're building, what would need to be true to look at multiple tracks? And so really working on the idea of some things take shorter to market, some things are going to take a lot longer to innovate and build, and just making sure that we're really cognizant of what each of those lead times are and creating multi-track calendars. I think it's going to be a huge unlock for the industry and something that we're starting to spearhead and making some good progress.
Excellent. Thank you, Sun. So we've been looking at the present, but I'd like for us to think a little bit about the future of technology, emerging tech, AI. All of you, you've each led across different industries, different eras of change. And as we look ahead to the rapid race of and rapid pace of advanced technology, what principles guide how you build your teams and products today? And how does it shape the future that you want to design? Aparna?
We don't have 5 hours, right?
I have 2 hours.
No, I'll give the teaser version of at least what's on our minds, what's on my mind. I'd say 3 things, right? So number 1 is the what, the product, the what are we building? I think there again, like we're just done with the just add AI phase, right? Every technology shift, the first thing that people think about is, let's just take the previous thing and then just tack on AI. That's why you see the chat pimples everywhere, right? But now I think what's going to happen is people are going to think AI native, like what are the new products? So on the what, I would encourage all of us to think, what are new things that are possible ground up? And this is a great opportunity as product builders. Then the second thing is around the who, and the teams themselves are changing. To Tiffany's point, the swim lanes are blurring, right? A designer who can code and a product manager who can prototype, it is great. At the same time, I do see kind of a double bar, like a barbell shape to the teams, which is there are the generalist product builders, but then there's a handful of what I call model whisperers, the folks who are really close to the AI and know what is going on. And the ideal teams that we are crafting together have both of these, the generalist product builders and then the model whisperers. That's on the who. And then the how is also changing, right? Because the models are adopting so fast, and the fact is that the natural language interface is so key, you don't start with the PRDs, and benchmarks are really important. Benchmarks are what are closing the deals in enterprise customers, not fancy decks anymore. So I think the how is also a big one.
Thank you, Aparna.
Can I also issue a warning for people?
Please.
I think the one thing that, again, like the caveat I would say is if you are just translating and routing in a large organization, so if you're not creating or making or deciding and directing, you're in a tough spot, right? I think you have to figure, because guess what? LLMs are much better translators than most of us. We are all very small language models with incentive issues. So I think that's the other one thing on a bright, cheery morning for you folks to think about, which is are you just a translator or router, or are you transforming things?
Thank you, Aparna. We are all small language models.
Micro models.
Son.
billion parameters.
The key principle for me in all of this conversation around how to build teams and what to think about is really being human first and human led, because at the end of it, that's what you're talking about here, and human behavior. And I'd say, I think it's interesting, the conversation on generalists and specialists and kind of the democratizing of creativity as an example. And I would say, one of the things that did surprise me on the divisiveness of it is how a lot of creatives are threatened and how some people can get threatened with the power of AI. And it really is just making sure that people know that these emerging technologies or existing technologies are tools. And I think the other framework for me is the importance of specialists, and especially in the creation and design principles, taste level and understanding who the consumer really, really matters. And so therefore, don't see AI and technology as a threat, but continue to see it as an enabler.
Thank you, Son. Tiffany.
I agree with both of you guys a lot. Maybe what I'll add is, if I were to pick one principle, it would be empathy. I think right now, with all of this change, it's very stressful for everyone, right? As part of just kind of researching and preparing for our conversation today, I looked at a couple of surveys that both Atlassian had done of product managers and designers, and then Figma had also done a similar survey around how people are using AI. And it was interesting to look at the comparison, because the results from Figma were much more optimistic. It was like, okay, now we have AI, everyone can design, everyone can build code, this is amazing. In the Atlassian survey, it was interesting that in that base, the folks were excited, but they were also a bit nervous. They're like, we're not sure how fast we can deliver the ROI. More than half of them weren't sure they were building exactly the right product. And I was wondering, well, why is there this difference? And it was in who they surveyed. The Figma survey had more folks that were early in their career. It was quite a blend. And the Atlassian one anchored to managers and above. And so that speaks a little bit to this, like, anytime there's innovation, everyone's like, okay, we want the fastest line to get to the result. But there's going to be a lot of failures. And I think as leaders, especially product leaders, it's our job to be really empathetic. We want to encourage those failures, because I think that's the only way we're going to be able to figure out how to use the technology in a way that is human, that works for us, and is going to deliver the best results for customers. So that's one. And then the piece that's also really exciting to me is, as a product leader, I'm sure all of you feel like you get so many requests that customers have of you, and you can never say yes to all of them, right? So you're like, okay, I've got to narrow down and prioritize and pick just these ones, right? The most common use cases or the highest ROI use cases. But I think now with AI, you can create products that are very adaptive for customers, where they themselves can have it be something that starts to grow with them, build the way that they want. And so more and more, I think AI is going to enable us to build products that act more like platforms, that enable customers to really customize and make things exactly the way they want. And I think that's pretty exciting as product leaders. Like, everyone can get exactly what they want, when they want, to your point. So yeah. I think it's a bright vision.
Absolutely. It's going to be a game changer. Tiffany, thank you so much. I am going to pivot here and ask the panelists a very unexpected question, because we've got a little bit of time. So I'm going to ask an unexpected question, but it's a good one. I mean, I think we're talking about the substance of AI and we're talking about products, but I think it's also very important to spend some time talking about life experiences that shape who we are and how we show up. So I'd like to ask each of the panelists to share a lesson that they've learned from a woman leader. And I'll go first to give you time to think about yours. So mine is, when I worked for First Lady Michelle Obama, we were in Liberia, and I had to lead on an event at the R.S. Caulfield School in Monrovia, Liberia. She was speaking to some students working on girls' education. President Sirleaf, woman president of Liberia, decided to come to this specific event at the last minute, which is fine, it's her country. So I had to work with her team's counterpart, but it was a last minute situation. So upon arrival, as you can imagine, there's a lot of like fanfare and like there's military and, Secret Service agents everywhere. And I was trying to direct things, but I kept getting interrupted by the counterpart. And I don't think they had any malintention of any sorts. And there was a part of me that could have maybe had them removed from the room or, created a bit of tension. But I recognized that we are not in America. This is not our country. We are guests. And, I don't want to give the perception that Mrs. Obama's team is coming into another country dictating how things should be. I was very sensitive to that. So I wasn't able to use my voice the way that I wanted to in that moment. And a message later came back to me from the team and from her, tell Julie I saw what she was trying to do, and I appreciate that. But also let her know it's okay to find that balance, to use your voice and stand up and push back with gentleness. So that was the lesson I learned, like finding that balance to speak truth to power in moments, but in kindness, right? So that was like one of my biggest lessons. I felt like, well, if Mrs. Obama's giving me permission to tell people to stop, things are great. So that is one of the biggest lessons of my career. Aparna.
That's awesome. I just want to say that's.
Thank you. Or I can start with Tiffany and work my way back.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah. I think to me, there's many leaders that have kind of influenced and kind of almost like given me a few of these nuggets. But the one that comes to mind is I was in one of these promotion review committees in my past life at Google. And one of the women at the table had us do this exercise. So the setting was, hey, there's one person. It was very clear. It was the prototypical case of we were looking at a woman's packet, and clearly they're like, oh, it's just too aggressive, brash, all the classic couldn't have been more stereotypical. And of course, all the, most of the men there were kind of like actually talking about, oh yeah, like, there should be that she has API issues and she has like UI issues. And I was like, bro. But what this woman actually very politely, very sweetly, very disarmingly did was to say, hey, can you replace, and she almost spoke out of turn and said, hey, I remember this case study, and I hadn't heard of this case study. Apparently, they did an HBS case study where they talked about I think it was a venture capitalist, and they changed the name, Harry versus Heather or something like that, and then said, can we take 2 minutes to read through the same packet, but instead of like Emily or whatever, like let's call it, like Evan, and then just read the whole thing, and how do you guys feel? Can you indulge me? And she said it in a very disarming way, which is something that I probably wouldn't have because I was getting up for this. And that was a lesson for me to kind of observe how most of, Hanlon's razor, I think, most of that needn't be attributed to malice. It's sometimes like incompetence or lack of understanding. Yeah. And that just simple exercise actually made people think, oh yeah, like we are actually kind of, skewing one way versus the other.
That's good.
Spoiler alert, the woman did get promoted.
That's good. Son.
Okay, well, my lesson is not from a first lady.
Oh, my God.
But,
you set the bar really high.
Really. I'm like, okay. But it's definitely a little more humble and kind of corny. But I'd have to say my mother. So we moved here when I was 6. I am the youngest of 3 girls. And I'm Korean American, and I'd say what was surprising about how my mother raised me and my father and my 2 older sisters is they actually never told us to run off and get married. They really said, if you try hard and try twice as hard because you're female and you're Asian, so you're a double minority, anything is possible. And so just the life lesson of possibility and not feeling either entitled or feeling sorry for myself, I think is something that I've carried with me throughout both my personal life and my professional life. And I love what you say about balancing acts and finding your voice. As a female leader, I think just balancing wanting to be who you are. And, my mom also really taught me about just the power of quiet strength. You don't always have to be the loudest person in the room, but you can show strength actually by being quiet. And so I just think it's the balancing act of what people expect of you when you're a leader, and wanting to really be yourself, and making sure that you use that discretion of being quiet, sharing space with others so that they can find their voices. But those are some powerful lessons that I've taken with me from my mom.
Love that.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Tiffany.
So for me, it's my current boss. So Anu Baharaj is our president at Atlassian. And it's crazy, but after 23 years in tech, she's my first female boss that I've had. Yeah, it's taken some time. And she's taught me some really great lessons, because I think even being a senior leader, right, and having worked at all these different roles, I personally find it sometimes hard to push back, especially on founders, right? There's just kind of this halo around founders, right? And it's their company. And there have been several incidents, one a few years ago around, an acquisition that I wanted to make, and I didn't think the founder would want to do it. And she is someone who just really epitomizes that, like, believe in yourself, and you can make your case to anyone. It doesn't matter their role, their stature, it's the founder or not. And so she's been hugely helpful in helping me kind of grow that voice, because to Sun's point, it's like sometimes there's cultural things as well, right? You're kind of taught early on, especially in Asian culture, that you have to really respect authority. And so I think it's important for us to kind of continue growing and try to role model those things, because at every level, I think there's lessons to be learned there. So
It's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you, Tiffany.
Yeah.
So we have 1 minute and 16 seconds left. And
Counting down.
We're going to do rapid fire very quickly. So let's get into it. Favorite song on repeat? Aparna, go.
Who run the world?
Girls. Sun.
Dodger Blue.
Tiffany.
Sorry, my kids love the K-pop, whatever. That's like the whole soundtrack is stuck in my head.
All right. Early bird or night owl?
Hoot.
Sun.
Early bird.
Definitely early bird. Yeah.
Guilty TV or show pleasure?
The rewatch of Psych and Monk.
Oh, Monk is so good.
Oh, I love Monk. It's so good. Yeah.
Sun.
I like serial killer documentary.
Is that what you meant by quiet
Don't judge me.
strength?
We should be afraid.
Watch out.
Oh, I'm watching that current K-drama. Is anyone watching where that chef goes back in time? Yeah, okay.
What's it called?
I forget that.
Sorry, the serial killer threw me off. I had a question and I forgot it. Okay, hobby that people wouldn't expect you do that you do.
I do stand-up comedy.
I actually saw
got
that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, I do knitting. No.
Son.
That is amazing. Air hockey.
Oh.
I don't know, Legos. Against my will, though.
You all, the reigning air hockey champ, Lego champ, and comedian. Give it up for them. Thank you all so much. Aparna, Sun, Tiffany, thank you for your time. We hope this was very insightful. Happy conference.
Thank you.
What was yours?
Oh, that's my